So when we first started off growing stuff, it was many years ago. I was a kid, a little, a little youngin', and we started off on picnic tables. We had containers. We had the tomato trellis racks that you put up, and we grew peppers. We grew cucumbers. We grew zucchini. My mother was doing most of that. I was watching from the scenes, but I was in school. I was in grade school at the time. As years went on, some things kind of stuck, and some things kind of didn't stuck. And it was until years later, until I finally bought a house, and we decided to go to a different stage, which we had a area on our property that used to be a pool, and it had rocks and stones in it. And I really didn't know what to do with it. I felt like it was a good spot to start kind of like playing around with growing stuff on it, which came into plywood with containers on it, which you guys will see.
Oh yeah.
So after we did the plywood, and that lasted for a very short amount of time. I mean, literally like that year. I got hooked into watching stuff like James Pigioni and Kevin from Epic Gardening. And I would watch them both because Kevin from Epic Gardening is in California and James Pigioni is in Jersey, and I'm in Long Island, New York. So it was kind of like two different zones, even though like James Pigioni is kind of sort of in the same zone that I am. He's really not, because Jersey will get weather that Long Island, New York won't get, and Long Island, New York will get weather that James doesn't get, and same thing with California. So I picked up a lot of tips and tricks, and I did a bunch of research on my own, and then we decided that after I picked up a bunch of stuff watching James Pigioni like religiously, I picked up doing like raised beds, and then these raised beds with these trellises that had these strings coming down. And it was a turning point for me on a growing level. I was growing out of a piece of plywood with containers, where I was getting nowhere because I had to water them by hand. And then I went to the trellises with, like the raised, not really, yeah, the raised beds with the tomato trellises coming up, and it was a lot of work. My mother and I spent hours and hours out there doing it, and we came up with a system, and we got an amazing harvest. And every year the harvest was better and better and then better, and it got to the point where it was super insane because we were pulling out like tomatoes that we couldn't even eat, like it was between tomatoes and cucumbers. I mean, there was the last harvest we did, we were pulling out so much food that it was utterly insane for two people. And then a lot of things were going on, and I took a break from gardening. There was a lot going on at work, there was a lot going on at home. I went on a big road trip. I came home, and I kind of got a little lazy with the garden. And unfortunately, the garden got overgrown by weeds. Now, originally, it was just the beds were put on top of the grass-ish ground that was there. And then I threw in like some wood chips because James was like, oh, you can get like an arborer, which is true. Arborers are the guys that cut down the trees. And they got wood chips, and it costs some money to get rid of it. But they don't mind giving it to you for free, which is great. So I still have a pile of that I've been trying to like figure out what to do with, even to this day. But I keep putting like grass on top of it, and it kind of like works in a way of like getting it down. But I really love to get rid of it, and without like getting a dumpster or putting in 1,000 garbage pails, I'm working on different options on getting rid of it, which is something that's in the works as myself to get rid of. So I had got a bunch of the wood chips, and I threw it in the back of my army truck, and I'd run out into the yard, and I laid it out every place under the sun. I would lay it out in the growing space, which is what I call Growtopia, even though the whole area is kind of Growtopia, because I got apple trees and cherries and raspberries and blueberries and strawberries. And I got stuff all over my whole property. You know, I call all of it Growtopia. I call the one main section Growtopia. I used to call it the orchard a lot, because originally that was the plan for it, was making an orchard, and then I turned it into more of a growing space, and that's where we're at. So after the whole situation of going on my road trip and a bunch of things going on around the house and stuff in general, I found myself with a growing situation. I had a perfect spot to grow stuff on that originally started off with plywood and containers, and then we put raised beds in there. We wrapped it with a fence out there. That was insane, doing that with the chicken wire and the wood, and oh my god, what a nightmare. And that took for days. And the problem was that I couldn't run a lawnmower through there. I couldn't really run a weed whacker through there efficiently. And as the season would end and the new season began, I started realizing there was a pattern going on. And the pattern was that it was a lot of work. I mean, a lot of work. You know, I work a full-time job as it is. So throughout the winter, you know, from like literally like November to like April, I'm super busy at work, and trying to get to the garden is almost literally impossible. I'm so burnt out by the time I get home. So trying to deal with the weeds and the overgrowing stuff and tomato clips around the strings and everything under the sun, it got to a point where I'm like, you know what, I'll do this later. And every time I looked at it, I'll do it later, I'll do it later, I'll do it later. It's very hard for one person, even for two people, even for three people. The area that I'm working with is extremely hard. A lot of people say, oh, that's easy. Yeah, it's easy when you don't have a job. But when you have a full-time job that takes all your energy out, and now you gotta do this, it's kind of hard. It's really hard, because you're exhausted from work and coming home, and you're like, I got 3 hours before I gotta go to sleep. Where's my time to do it? Springtime would come up, and I would spend about the whole weekend, I'm talking about like Friday night until it gets dark, and then with flashlights out there. And then Saturday through the whole day, through the heat, whatever the temperature is, all the way into Saturday night. And then Sunday I'd wake up and I had about X amount done, and I still had to do more. So I'd wake up Sunday at 4 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 3 o'clock before the sun came up, just before the sun came up. And I'd go out there and work on it. And it was great. It was fun. You know, when I finally done, I loved the way it looked. I did that for a while. And then this was all before the road trip. So then things were going on, and the road trip came. I came home, and there was a lot of things going on at home, and the garden kind of got put a little bit on the back burner. But I always went out there and looked at it. And one of the things I noticed was we had a lot of rain And unfortunately, with a lot of rain and then some sun and a lot more rain and then sun, the weeds decided to start taking over. And all of a sudden, it got to a point where I looked at it and I was just like, I don't know what to do. And I love growing. I love growing my own food. I love eating my own food. I don't want to give up on it. It's a love-hate relationship at that point. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not getting any younger. I'm getting older. It sucks bending down, getting on your knees, sitting on the wood chips, fighting with stuff, the bugs, the mosquitoes, the ants, all the other crap, the nematodes, whatever the hell's in it. You're swatting. You got the gnats and stuff. It's horrible. It wasn't fun. So I took a step back for a little bit. I said, you know what? What if I redo the whole place? I revamp everything. So I pull up my clipboard, like such, and I grab a piece of paper, and I go, well, what if it looks like this? Where I have elevated beds in different spots, different things, a different watering situation. You know, because also with the watering at the time, it was going outside with literally the same type, just regular sheet of paper, written down, this one, this one, this one, 1 hour, 2 hours, 1 hour, 2 hours, this one, on, off, this one, on, off, backyard, front yard, for this zone, this one, that one, this one, this one, this one, that one, this one, this one. Chaos. We did that for a while. Then I started looking into stuff like Orbit, for an example, a company that makes sprinkler systems. They make an automatic watering system that has 4 ports on it that can connect to your spigot. And if you have a 2-way on it, you have the Orbit system here, and then you have your hose, like I do in the backyard. The Orbit sits here with 4 ports on it. And I have one in the front with 4 ports as well. It takes AA batteries, connects to your Wi-Fi. You can control it anywhere you are in the world. That's cool. You can also connect through Bluetooth to do close connection, which a lot of times I do, because for some reason the Wi-Fi to the unit, there's a situation that goes on, whatever it is. But you can connect to it directly. You can turn on the water. You can shut the water off. You can program it. You can have it turn on at this time and that time and shut on and off. You can do all this kind of fun stuff. On, off, different times, different days, different hours, all this stuff. You can program it also depending on the weather as well. I'm like, wow, this is cool. How much does that cost? I'm like, not bad. Not bad for the amount of aggravation and time. The only thing is you got to keep your water turned on to your spigots. So you got to make sure the watering inside your house is all good to go. Otherwise, you're going to have hoses and lines blowing in different spots of your house, especially if your house is old. We had a bunch of that done because of things that were going before I went down this road. So I knew this was a possibility. And I like the comfort of it, you know, the comfort of, I know things are going to get watered when they need to get watered. I know that they're going to get the right amount of water that they need. The spark. Then I'm at work one day, and I'm making a delivery, and I roll up on this house. I work as a field truck driver. And I'm looking at this lawn, and I'm like, wow, this lawn looks amazing. It's cut nice. It's super green. There's no weeds. It is perfect. And I see that lawn. You guys will see. And I go, wow. That was my inspiration. My inspiration was when I got out of the truck, and I got down on the ground, and I looked at it, and I realized it was fake grass. Bing! The light bulb goes off in my head. Between the automatic water system, the fake grass, and redoing the garden space, I knew in my head I was in deep trouble. I was about to rip down everything that we spent time and money on doing to turn it into something that's more comfortable, more fun to do. And that's where this video continues. Look at the photos.